Welcome everybody to the live stream where Stacey Harmon is joining me to talk about Evernote, what's new, what's next, all the things that are in between. So we'll bring her in just a moment, but I wanted to first off thank Sarah for being here. She's monitoring the chat whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn. Now I can see all the comments and stuff on YouTube right now because we're using eCam for this, but if you are on LinkedIn, rest assured we'll be able to bring some of those questions, comments, insights into the conversation today as well. So for really what we wanted to do with this conversation is talk about what's new and next with Evernote as they've just released some updates. They've offered some pricing changes. And Stacey and I have known each other for a number of years. I'll bring her in here in just a second. It's good to see so many people here, by the way, and we'll go through that in just a minute. But if you followed my work for a while, you know I was a big Evernote user, and then I've shifted away from it as they've made some changes over the years, especially after the acquisition by Bending Spoons. We'll get into that. But again, this conversation, it would be really nice, I think, in most arenas, if you could have civil discourse around things, whether you agree or not. And so I wanted to bring this to the table as well, although I'm sure many of you that are watching this live stream or watching this video after the fact, again, whether on LinkedIn or on YouTube, are fans of Evernote. And again, there's a lot that Evernote has to offer. So we'll get started here in just a minute. It's great to see so many people here on YouTube. We've got Bob from Rapid City. We've got Debbie joining us as well. We've got Dr. Edward's with us. Good to see you, Edward. We've got David from Allentown, Pennsylvania, an honorary Canadian. Andrew is here from Cincinnati, Ohio. I am a Bengals fan, although this year we are facing some troubles this year as a Bengals fan. But it's good to see so many people here joining us today. And again, if you've got questions, thoughts, feedback, just please throw them in the comments as you're watching the live stream, even if you're watching the video after the fact, and I'll check out the comments. Now, without further ado, we're going to get into the conversation. So I'm about to bring in Stacey Harmon, who again is an Evernote Certified Expert. We've known, like I said, we've known each other for a long time. So I'm really, really happy that we're able to have this conversation around somebody who doesn't work for Evernote, but works with Evernote. And I think that that's a really interesting distinction that we'll be able to share throughout this conversation here. All right. So let's bring in Stacey. Good to see you.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. It's been a while. Well, it's been what, I guess just about a little over a year since we saw each other in person at
Time flies.
I know. We were at Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain Summit in Los Angeles last October. And you were presenting. You were actually doing a conversation, I think, with who was it from Bending Spoons again that you had the conversation with?
Federico Simeonato. He's their product lead.
Right.
Product lead.
So he was there, and you facilitated a conversation with them. There was a lot of stuff going on that summit. I thought it was a great summit. I hope Tiago does it again sometime in the future. But we had a chance to have dinner together and just catch up and learn and talk about Evernote and productivity and just start, because we've known each other for quite a long time. Like maybe too long at this point.
I think like we're interested in the same productivity thing, right? Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I think that, we crossed paths because we were both traveling to similar events, right? Like I think I first met you in London, of all places.
Oh, yeah. We were at Chris Ducker's Upreneur Summit. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yes.
Certainly I crossed paths with you online because of your you're just so eloquent in discussing productivity as it relates to the tools. And you were doing that at the time for Evernote. And I learned a lot from you when I was really embracing it. So that's where you became notable to me, but we've crossed paths in all these different places. I got to get myself to Toronto to say hi.
Well,
Victoria.
Victoria. Yeah, that's okay. Well, Toronto is Canada at this point after the Blue Jays, right? I think for a lot of people.
Right. Maybe that's on the top of mind.
but now the kind of the tables have turned a bit, because you are definitely well versed in Evernote, far more than even I ever was. And I want to go get right out of the gate. We've got, again, some people that will want to ask some questions as well, but I've got some that I want to start off with. So Evernote version 11, right? That's what we've got out now. So what has stood out to you when you first saw it? Because you got a bit of a sneak peek at it, I would imagine, right?
Well, I have a sneak peek, but let me just clarify. Like it's like imminent. Like
Yeah.
any moment it could be released. It could be released today. It could be released in a week. It could be released in 3 weeks. Like
Yeah.
I actually don't know exactly when it's coming out. They want it out, but they're certainly working on getting it out. They've actually taken a little bit of a different approach than I expected, which
Mm-hmm.
is they've told us what features are coming in it, and they're starting to drip those out to paying subscribers,
Okay.
which means that you may or may not have access to some of the version 11 features, but officially we're still in 10
Okay.
officially.
Okay.
That's going to change. It could change by the time we end this podcast. I have no idea.
Well,
Yeah.
and interestingly, again, if you're watching this live, you're not going to necessarily have these features yet. But if you're watching the recording over the replay or what have you, you'll be able to. So is there anything that has stood out that you can share, that you can see that's coming?
Yes, for sure. So the big difference between what's taking us from version 10 to version 11 is the thoughtful introduction of AI into the app. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next generation of Evernote as a note-taking app, and that is the differentiating feature of version 11. Okay. So if you go to their website, and I can provide you the link, you can put the direct link in the show notes, but
Mm-hmm.
they have showcased the 3 major AI features that are coming to the app. If you are a paying user, you already have access to one of them, and that is the AI meeting notes feature. So this is as you would expect. Also, many users may not know that Evernote's got a bunch of little free satellite sites that let people experiment with certain pieces of functionality of Evernote either before it gets added to the app or not. If you've been playing with that, they've got a meeting notes feature and function satellite site, or they've folded that into the app now.
Okay.
So it works just as you'd expect. I can record an in-person or a online meeting. The file will live in my Evernote note. I can transcribe it. There's speaker recognition. It works with multiple languages, and it's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really accurate. Like the feedback from people is wow. They want it to be more than an hour long. It's currently capped at an hour long. So you have to be cognizant of if you want it to translate over an hour, you've got to pause it at the hour mark and start a new one. But otherwise, that's something Evernote has said to us, ECEs, we're going to look at expanding over time.
Right.
But that's already available today.
Okay.
The other 2 features are AI assistant, which is like AI chat. It's like having ChatGPT inside your Evernote account. You're going to be able to interact with Evernote much like you would ChatGPT. It's with the integration with OpenAI. Evernote's been a case study on the OpenAI website regarding this particular feature. I do want to just say immediately and upfront, 100% of these AI features are voluntary, and you as a user have control to opt in and turn them on or off at an AI by AI level. Okay. So the user is in control. There's a whole new settings panel in your preferences that allows you to manage your choice for these AI integrations. They are turned on by default, so you'll want to turn them off if you don't want to use them, but you have control as a user. Okay. In addition, it goes with, I want to just state it, you're not training the model. Okay. Yeah. I know people fall on different continuums.
Well, it's a hot button issue, right? And I mean, and it sounds like part of the careful consideration around this is how do we add the benefits of generative AI along with preserving the privacy and the standalone stuff. So, I mean, again, that may play a role in how things are being rolled out, because it's like, how do we make sure that we fine tune this so they get the experience of, if you are teaching the model, so to speak, versus you are now just reaping the benefits of what the ecosystem can do without you having to give your stuff in, right?
Right. And all of this is going to sort itself out over time. Like we don't actually have the answer to it right now, but as a user, you have control over what you want to participate in or not. And the AI assistant, which is like actively today rolling out to select advanced plan users. Again, I don't know the deployment schedule or what it is. I've had preview access to it, but it's coming out, and we'll see what people have to say about it. Myself and fellow ECEs have been playing with it. They like it. It's like, if you like ChatGPT and that's changed your workflows, you're going to find that now the ability to do that with your library of notes from the last 15 years is going to be pretty cool, right? It's also, I'd like to just set expectations. Like, I think much like we didn't really know how to use ChatGPT a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and it needed to learn and innovate quickly. I think that's what we're going to see with this. I don't think it's going to be all we want it to be right out of the gate, but I'd expect it to evolve very, very quickly and become really, really functional over the next quarter, half a year, 3/4 of a year, and full year. I think we're going to see, major innovation in terms of how we craft, organize, and manage our second brains. So the AI assistant's their first iteration in that.
I think Andrew brings up a really good point. I'm throwing it on the screen right now. I think the concerns of privacy in the world of AI are well founded. Evernote holds very personal information, PII, medical information, etc. And I think what's worth noting there is because Evernote has been around so long, people were using it, quote, as a, and still do to a degree, a digital filing cabinet. So you were when I was doing Evernote more and more, and when we were talking about it, you would put things like, private notes and secure notes in there because you had it like, that was just some of the practices that you would do. And so to ask people to go back in and kind of prune that would be challenging for some, depending on how many notes you have. So by kind of giving them the choice around security around AI, I think is a really, really important thing to keep in mind. Now, I want to get into the pricing stuff because this is always a sticky issue for people. And one of the things that and then we'll talk a bit about Bending Spoons and some of their recent acquisitions and other things that I know you can speak a little bit to, but I mean, we want to keep this conversation fairly Evernote focused. So they've got some new plans and they've made some changes to them. And, when they've done this before, they've received a lot of pushback, right? In terms of, at least from the users that have been long and steadfast and what have you. But the ones that were served when Phil and them started Evernote, as opposed to where it's going. So can you talk a bit about what's changed with the pricing, and as well as, to dovetail on the end of that, who they see as their users now? Because I think that's a really important distinction, because again, there are a lot of people that may not that may have been their user base before, but now it's just not who they're aligning with.
Well, certainly this week we're still trying to sort all of that out, but that is accurate. Like, there's clearly a change in who they view their customer as. And believe me, that's the number one question I'm asking, right? Now, I know I'm their customer and I can talk about how I use it, because really what I think it comes down to is the value of the tool you choose, no matter what it is, has to exceed the cost of the subscription and the soft costs of learning and managing your system.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my rule about what it is. Now, what tool you choose might be very different for all kinds of people. And quite frankly, I don't think the pricing is the issue with the new plans. The pricing is very much in alignment, at least at the advanced plan, with comparable plans for other PKM systems or a robust knowledge management or second brain. Okay. It's very minor. It might depend dramatically depending on what your end goal is, but they're pretty comparable, and we're seeing price escalation in all of them over time.
That's true. I mean, everything is going up right now. Like, let's be honest. Every tool to do is just raise their prices. So we're seeing, especially in this economy and so on and so forth, and with the advent of AI features, I think people are seeing businesses, SaaSes, stuff like that, are seeing as an opportunity to increase pricing as they pull away from, say, some of the more generic AI tools like ChatGPT and so on and so forth. So, sorry, continue.
Yeah. So, I just want to say that about price, because one of the things I like to correct people on, I can appreciate if you're upset or you're going to leave Evernote, and I can understand why, but to say that it's not comparable or that it's outrageously priced compared to the competition, I don't find factual. I just can't justify that. However, and to that point on price, their new starter plan, which was just announced last week, is cheaper than the personal plan was before. So it's not price. The issue is they have introduced limits that never existed in paid plans before.
Okay.
So here's where the rub is. If you're a longtime Evernote user and you are used to being on their low tier, you have collected a lot of stuff that now puts you probably egregiously over the limits that they've implemented. And those limits notably are on your content. You can have up to 1,000 notes, 20 notebooks, and oddly, they've capped the number of attachments. And we're still trying to all get clarity around this because, first of all, it's really hard to understand what is considered an attachment. It appears if I forward an email in and I've got 20 social media logos, that's 20 files. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So that is to be sorted out. And Bending Spoons isn't going to probably keep it that way forever. If that's how it's getting deployed, this is an iterative process that they're not going to be oh, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cap how many emails you can put in, right? That's not it. But the caps are significant, right? In terms of how longtime users have used it. So if you've been an Evernote user for 10 to 15 years and you've only used it as a digital filing cabinet or a note-taking app, and a place to remember everything, which is what they've sold it as for years. And now you can only have 1,000 notes, or you have to be in a plan that charges about $250 a year annually US dollars. You're upset.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, David brings this up. It's outrageous for those who used to free and cheap, but as you mentioned, it's in alignment with other PKM tools, right?
Right.
I mean and so, but yes, there is going to be it's a combination. So like you pointed out, it's sticker shock, not because of price. It's sticker shock because of limits. Right. And I mean, that is going to push people into other tools perhaps, but we all know that in some instances, and maybe this is the in your role as an Evernote certified expert, and even Bending Spoons' role is how do we keep the people that are going to be kind of, ooh, these limits are, I mean, it forces people to prune, but how do you keep them around? And I guess this is where we're talking about what version 11 is going to bring and some of the other things that will make it worth that pricing point.
Well, and you can also appreciate why it's a little challenging for users who are in that tier without seeing what version 11 is going to do to their app. They're being asked to pay something that they haven't actually experienced, which is actually a key reason why I think, if I'm reading between the lines, Evernote's dripping out these 11 features before version 11 is officially out.
Right.
So users can get a chance. There's a couple points I really think it's important to make. Number one, these changes are gradually occurring. So you'll get a 1-month renewal notice. So we're going to see this over a whole year. If you just subscribed 2 weeks ago, you're not going to see it for another year, right? Yeah. So that's number one. And the two other things actually. You're going to be, if you're a paying customer under personal or professional, you're going to be automatically transitioned to the advanced plan. You have to proactively downgrade to starter if you want. So keep that in mind. Everybody should be looking at when their renewal date is. Don't rely on the email from Evernote. It's only 30 days. So start thinking and making your plan now is my point. The other thing I want to state is if you do choose to downgrade, much like if you went to a free plan, you don't lose access to all your data. I think this is a really key point that should make people not panic. Okay. Right. It's their data protection. Their 3 laws of data protection still stand. It's one of the things that hasn't changed. It's a key reason that you should evaluate, what's the data policies of any company that you use in this manner. That has not changed. And so they're not going to not give you access to your data. Your data is yours. Your data is portable. Your data is protected. Okay. Gotcha. So if you downgrade, they're going to give you a million calls to actions to upgrade. They're going to, prohibit you from creating new notebooks. They're going to not let you access certain features. It's going to be difficult to navigate, likely, or there's going to be speed bumps in the press to access it, but you don't lose your data. So you can make a thoughtful decision, which I think you and I are in agreement about. This should be whatever you're using at this capacity for these types of thoughts, memories, and productivity should be a thoughtful decision.
So, Andrew, I've had this up on the screen for a little bit, but this is some of the comments that they're going to hear and we're going to share. So Andrew said, I've got more than 6,200 notes in my Evernote at the professional level. I'm concerned now about what this will cost me. Paula, they need to grandfather legacy users better, right? Which leads to my next question. So that's been my issue, whether it's Evernote or any other app. So let's be clear. It's not just an Evernote thing. So, and then I've got a question that's coming in from LinkedIn that we'll get to here in a minute. But it's so interesting because when and this happens, by the way, outside of software too. If you've ever if you've ever tried to deal with like an internet provider and you've been with them for a long time, right? And then all of a sudden you see the, hey, new users get a free TV or they get this and they're paying less. You're like, but wait, I've been with you for 5, 10, 15 years. Where's the loyalty? What do I get for that? So while I don't expect you to speak to the response because you don't work for Bending Spoons, but I mean, this is a thing that I think a lot of businesses need to keep in mind, especially when there are so many other, I mean, Lubomir says limits are really a strange thing. But the other thing is they're a motivation to find another solution, right? They can be, because I think what happens is sometimes people get complacent, they forget, and they're like, oh, fine, I'll just pay the extra, which may be, that's a side effect of this. But this is something that I think more tools need to kind of think about as there are more opportunities for users to be kind of taken from them to other tools like Obsidian or Notion or Amplenote or or Craft or any of these, because there's a plethora of them out there. So what are your thoughts on that overall? Yeah, I mean, Evernote aside, I think that this is something that businesses need to start thinking about is, okay, where the prices are better, but the limits are there. Or, like making those changes without saying, by the way, you've been a user for a decade, so therefore we're going to do this. We're going to do X, Y, Z or whatever. I mean, I don't think it's going to change, but it is frustrating.
Well, it's definitely frustrating, but I actually, I mean, I look at this totally different than how you phrased the question, quite frankly.
Sure.
This is my problem, not their problem, as far as I'm concerned, as a user. I don't have what company does it a way I like it. Like, I loved your example of internet prices raising, right? It's like, and it's just like the state of it. It's like, and my power is in being fluent enough to understand what I'm putting in there, how I get it out, and where my cap is. Like, I don't know what else to do. I can't control that.
It's fair. No, it's fair because I mean, and again, I think this is really interesting because I mean, look, and then you have the like David right here, 17 years in, 30,000 notes. Evernote is my ride or die. So in that instance, it's like, you know what, the cost. And thanks, Celtic. See you. So I think that the other interesting thing here is that it's you have to kind of decide whether or not it's worth the cost, right? Like you will, I mean, this is the conscious choice you were saying earlier, right? Like what is the conscious choice around this? Well, for me, it's, you know what? I could move my stuff out of a tool, whatever it is, and put it in another one. But again, as that tool gets bigger, you may have to do it again. Again, the internet service provider is a good example of, well, you have all these new users that are getting, XYZ, you have to call loyalty to get them to give you some sort of deal. But at the end of the day, to get your internet service provider changed, there is a lot of friction around that. They got to come, disconnect. You've got to do so you're eventually just kind of like, okay, it's not really complacency. It's you're acquiescing. You're like, all right, this is how much this costs. Streaming services are another great example. We're seeing that happen right now where you've got streaming services like Disney Plus who are like, we just had some real issues with people canceling. Oh, yeah, but let's jack up our prices. And people are like, do I stay? Do I go? Right. So it's these choices.
I mean, I feel it too. Like I'll give you an example that came to mind as you're talking about this. I want to change my bank.
Yeah.
I hate my bank. I don't like my bank. I want to change my bank. I have had it on my to-do list for 2.5 years. Right?
Yeah.
Like, or my wish list for 2.5 years, right?
Yep.
It's like the switching costs are really high. I finding a good solution, I consider them all evil, right? Are they all, I'm not sure I agree with any of them. I mean, evil's a strong word, but
less altruistic than you would like.
Yes. And this is really relevant. AI technologies dramatically changing that business landscape, and new models are coming and new things to look at. And I don't know where I'm going to want to jump. And if I jump, will that business be in business in 4 years? And how does that impact all these other things that I've got? And the end result is I just stay with my bank.
Yeah. Speaking of tasks and having a to-do list, Paul, Paul Daniels from LinkedIn said, "Can we expect any AI features for managing tasks?" Now, I've not been in Evernote for a while, so I've always been a bit, kind of hesitant with Evernote as a task management tool, going as far back as when people were using it with GTD, and then they were using the secret weapon. If you remember way back when Scott was using like Evernote was, people were trying to quote jerry rig it for task management. They've added such features to it, but it's still not, to me, an ideal task management tool. So number one, that question is, I think, appropriate. Will AI features be added for managing tasks? And if that's the case, it seems like an opportunity to make it a better task management tool if they are going to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about this. The evolution of task. Evernote now has a dedicated task kingdom and manager within the app. Okay. So that's an evolution that Bending Spoons bought. Like, they didn't develop that, but they have iterated on it. Okay.
Right.
It also is not the strongest part of Evernote.
No.
Okay? A lot of people use third-party apps for their tasks and use everything else in Evernote because the other tasks are stronger, or other task tools are more developed and robust. Now, I can tell you, I 100% use Evernote tasks. So it is certainly possible. In my community where I teach Evernote skills, we have like about half the community uses Evernote tasks and half the community doesn't. And we talk about why you would and why you wouldn't. And there's valid reasons on both sides. Okay. Now, as far as AI, I haven't actually heard of this as being the next area of focus. It doesn't mean it's not. They just haven't really focused on task innovation, but it seems very logical that it would make the development list. Like, it seems like that fits. I also don't have full insight to the roadmap, and I'm just telling you, like, I know there's other ECEs on the call here. Like, maybe they feel different and can tell in the chat, but like, they're not mentioning it as an area of focus immediately. That could all change, but I don't really know. But it seems super logical. Like, that would be something that I would want, like, especially because we have AI meeting notes. And so it's extracting the transcription. It's a very they're very aware that it'd be really nice in the summary to then extract out what those to-dos are and then give the user the opportunity to create those as a task.
Well, it would make it more palatable for some of the other stuff. Like, hey, if this is the tool you go to, not unlike a Notion or a ClickUp or something like that, to have that built in. I love how Andrew put this in here. This goes to show how old I am in this space. The secret weapon. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in years. Right. I think you could probably still find it if you search online. So it's the other thing I want to get to, because I think you mentioned some of the other Evernote certified experts and Bending Spoons, and the last time that something major like this happened, it seems to me, and again, I'm speaking from the outside, that there was maybe a little bit of friction's not the right word. There was not as much clear communication between the people that teach people how to use Evernote in the best way possible and the people that run Evernote. So they didn't know, well, we don't know what's happening here, pricing. Have you found that there is a tighter relationship that's been forged? Because, I mean, the expert program was around before Bending Spoon purchased it, right? Before they acquired Evernote. And so while we've seen maybe some of the changes around who Bending Spoons is having Evernote seeing as an ideal customer, the experts are still there. So what's that relationship been like? And I mean, I know you probably have to couch your response a little bit, but I thought I would ask anyway, because I think you're the bridge. Like, you're the group that's the bridge between the users and the people who are running Evernote.
So I found it to be great. Like, it's the best that has existed in my entire time of being part of Evernote's influencer program, which I was part of their very first one, their ambassador program, back when they first had it. Yes. And I've been part of every iteration. In addition, Bending Spoons was founded in like 2013. I've been using Evernote longer than Bending Spoons has been a company. Mm-hmm. So I have a really unique perspective, and they understand that I have a history and I know a lot about the user base, the longtime user base, at least, and the history of the company. And they're very smart, talented people who value excellence. They want to do a great job, and they listen to what it is. They also, so this is where the contrast is. They are a data-driven company. They
Yeah.
make decisions. This pricing change wasn't out of the blue. Okay. This was a data driven decision,
Hmm.
but the data doesn't always tell the story of that historical user. So this historical user might be a very small percentage, but as always, it's a loud group that
Yes.
cares a lot. But a data is not going to tell you that that group is the most vocal or or how long they've been. Maybe it'll tell them how long they've been a member, but it's, and they're very responsive to listening to what we have to say about that. I mean, I have found them very open to it, and I mean, I don't control the roadmap, but I think they listen to what myself and the other really fluent users who are dealing with their user base, who is invested enough to also pay us to help them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What they're saying and what they want. I mean, we've seen some changes. Like I can tell you, many users who have stuck with them know that like sync and reliability has dramatically improved under bending spoons. Like it's been almost like fixed. I think in cloud computing software you have to be careful to say that,
Right.
but it's night and day, right?
Hmm.
And then in terms of like they've released over 250 new features in the time they've owned the company in 2.5 years, right? Almost 3 years. That pace of development was creating some ripple effects that were workflow problems, and they listened to that and they incorporated changes into putting some attention on those workflow issues. So I found them really responsive and interested in how people are really using Evernote deeply.
What was it like when you were at the Building a Second Brain Summit and, Bending Spoons was represented there? Because
Yeah.
so you're mentioning like they're data driven and very like quantitative stuff. So if you saw my Evernote, which I mean, I still have my account. I don't use it anymore. It's still, I mean, it still shows that I have whenever I started, which was eons ago. So if they look at the date that I started and the amount of notes that I have, they're probably not going to get the full story. They're probably, they're just going to say, oh, this guy has a lot of notes and he has this and that's it. Like, but it's that qualitative user, like you were talking about, the ones that have been around for a while, the ones that are using it day in and day out and using it maybe in ways that are rather unconventional. Again, going back to the secret weapons days, going to look using task management. Maybe they're using the task feature as a habit tracker more than actual, like, there could be a variety of ways they're using it. When they were actually in the room with people who were definitely passionate about second brain stuff, was there any insights that they gleaned from that were gleaned from that were like, okay, maybe we need to take this, maybe we need to look at this differently? Like, I'm curious about that.
I think what they do is they listen with an open mind and they
Okay.
listen to everything. I mean, Federico, I watched him talk with fluent Evernote users who are leading AI experts and educators
Right.
talking about how they want to interact with AI in Evernote. And this is what we're seeing in AI Assistant. It's taken a year, but I think they get it, right? They're hearing what the need is. And little things. In my presentation, I did 2 presentations. I interviewed him, but then I
Mm-hmm.
also talked to users about like the top 20 things I think people miss with Evernote, right? And because Federico was sitting right in front of me, I said, and this is my top feature request. And, a couple of months later, it's in the app. I don't know if that was because of me, but it was, it's one of those things that it's like, he didn't know you couldn't do that, and now we can, right? That kind of
Yeah.
a thing. So I find them very responsive. We have a channel like us, the group of ECEs. I mean, we're in their Slack channel. We're talking to their engineers. They're listening to us. They're getting feedback. We're trying things out for people.
Well, and I mean, again, back to the syncing issue. Like, I mean, Scott saying it's night and day. The
Yeah.
mobile redesign that Evernote did last year, entirely to the new team. That's what's being mentioned here. More fluid, faster. Again, David saying sync is almost immediate now. Like, that was a huge pain point for a lot of people. Is that syncing feature. So again, if people are willing, I think people are willing to put up with limits and price changes and such if they see and it's not just perceived progress, but actual progress. And that sync thing, because you're right, that was indexing and syncing was a real pain. So I'm glad that they've worked on that. We've got and again, in LinkedIn, we've got Angel saying that, again, Evernote is not what they use for a task manager. They use a third-party app, Todoist, right? So you're never going to please everyone. Who is Bending Spoons, do you think, looking at as their ideal customer for Evernote at this point?
I mean, I think it's somebody who's all in with Evernote as their knowledge management system. I mean, that's it. That's what it feels like to me. I don't think it's the archival user anymore,
So
unless they can afford it.
Is it business? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Like, is it enterprise?
Well, we didn't talk about that, but they have completely revamped the enterprise product and all things about, I mean, in terms of how they price it, how they structure it, who it's designed for. It's designed for large teams. It used to be something that was just, I mean, well, I guess large teams in a small business. Like it used to be one to 5 seats was like a target market for teams. Now it's not even called teams, it's enterprises. And they're going after like 30, 40, 50 seats is like your starting point, a $20,000 a year spend kind of thing. Yeah. Like it's a enterprise level product, right? Gotcha. So that's clear. That's clear. So if you're me and we're self-employed, we have a very small team of maybe 1 employee or contractors that we deal with. The new advanced plan is much more conducive to what we want to use it for. And I'm using it for business and personal, and I want overlap in that. I use it as my GTD system. It's my life management. It's my single central hub. Obviously not everything's done there, but it's my number one. It's my desk. It's my digital desk where I start my day and have it with me everywhere I go. That is a key customer. I think the way the plans are structured support that as clear as day. If you're looking to, try out or kick the tires of Evernote, is that kind of tool. The starter plan, just what it's named, the starter plan is exactly that. And then you would upgrade to advanced. So I think that's kind of where it's at and who they think the market is.
So a little bit more about Bending Spoons. They've had some recent acquisitions. Several. They're not slowing down, and they're definitely decisions that, you're like, that's interesting. But if you look at what they've acquired, you're like, okay, so they're building this quote mini empire of SaaS products, right? I think they own Meetup now. I think Vimeo,
yeah. So
AOL.
When they purchased Evernote, everybody was like, Bending Spoons who? Like
all of that, right? Now everyone knows who they are.
Everybody knows who they are, and they haven't slowed down. So they are, for those that don't know, they are a Milan-based, basically like a combo of a tech and private equity firm, privately owned though. And they are different than a private equity firm in that the assets that they acquire, the companies that they acquire, they then operate, manage, and revitalize with their own team. And they have actively said in multiple podcasts that they don't ever buy with the intent to sell.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's very different than Evernote Silicon Valley, which was VC funded and they wanted a return to sell.
Well, that for the longest time, and I think you and I had this discussion, we're like, who does Evernote land with? Do they land with Google? Do they land with that was the thought, especially when it was Chris that was running it, who used to work for Google back when Chris O'Neill, right? He was the CEO for a while. I'm like, this seems like a plan for Alphabet because Keep is not like people are using Keep, but Evernote would have been a huge upgrade. It's like when Microsoft acquired Wunderlist and you're like, oh, good, but Microsoft does things very differently when they acquire something than say a Bending Spoons. But Bending Spoons also, like, they have some people that that are like celebrities and stuff are involved with them, I believe, right? Yeah, at least they used to be. I think they used to be, like, in terms of giving them funds and stuff. I may be wrong here, but I distinctly remember hearing like, oh, this is a name that falls outside of the tech space. Although, they
had like a Hollywood round that had like, I think I read like Ryan Reynolds was involved in funding one of their rounds or something like that. But I do what I can to study the ownership because it's very important to me and my decision to continue with Evernote or recommend Evernote, which I do in both counts. But they're a very unique company that could be the future. They have a very unique business model that now is taking off to the point where I just read last week that they received an $11 billion valuation. And this is on the heels of the announcement that they purchased AOL, which should close later this year. They purchased earlier this year Vimeo. They own StreamYard, WeTransfer, as you mentioned, Meetup. Yep. They are in an Evernote, obviously. So they this actually is very interesting for Evernote users, in my view. And this takes me back to Phil Libin days.
Yep.
Like when I would go to the Silicon Valley and see the offices there, you could feel the energy and you could feel the desire to work there as an engineer.
Yes.
And that is what a software company needs to be successful long term. They need engineering talent. And Bending Spoons is the top place to work in the tech space in all of Europe, and now in a much more notable place in the world, quite frankly.
Right.
And they're exciting. They're attracting talent. They have the ability to attract people who want to work on exciting, sexy things like AI, but work within an established tool that might not have as much excitement around, like working in a productivity app like Evernote, which is not the hot new thing anymore. It's the established, tool in the space.
But it's being reinvented to a degree too, and it's being reinvented in a few ways. So, I mean, I'm going to go back to we're seeing comments, and I totally. Again, we have to go back to pricing because, Levin says in LinkedIn, the price changes are ridiculous. 54% increase for my current plan. I'm going to look for other solutions. This is the way that businesses weed out who they don't want any longer to be. Unfortunately, now what sucks is it puts the onus, like it not only erodes trust with, let's say Evernote but it also, I think, erodes trust when you're thinking about, okay, I'm moving, when is this app going to leave? Because you and I've been in this game long enough to see tools like Wunderlist, Astrid,
Right.
Trello getting acquired by Atlassian, and they get transformed to a degree. Like, these things will happen, but it is almost like a way of, we were talking about grandfathering earlier. It's a way of kind of grandfathering people out to say, hey, we're going to increase our prices, add some limits, because you're not our ideal customer anymore. At least not the way you're using it right now. If you want to pay the extra, congratulations, you're our ideal customer. And it's really tricky because I know Andrew asked me earlier what I think about Obsidian, and Obsidian I really like. I think that it has some for a tinkerer, for somebody who likes to play with it and mod it, not unlike Notion, that there's scaffolding, but there's not structure in the same way that, say, an Evernote offers. It's the same thing why I like ClickUp for task management, because it gives me just enough structure, whereas Todoist, which I use for personal task management, gives me more of that, right? And so, if you're fine with like adding plugins and extensions and so on and so forth to different tools, then Evernote, like, okay, well then you're not getting the bespoke offering that Evernote has any longer, or ClickUp because ClickUp's not cheap either for some, right? And Asana would be another great example of a company who were like, they've kind of had an evolution similar, where they were like, we're going to work with smaller teams and individuals, and they just got rid of personal projects. They are definitely diving in deeper into, so it's not just Evernote. However, I don't like the tactic of, hey, I'd rather have somebody be open with me and say, this is who Evernote is not for archival people. It's not your digital filing cabinet in the same way it used to be. So if that's not you, when you see a landing page and it goes, who is this for? Who is this not for? I'd rather see more businesses go, who's this for? This is for the person who wants to use it for PKM, Who's this not for? If you're just keeping things stored on a file cabinet, like, this is not for you. Like, why? It would be much better if somebody was to say, and maybe this is a role that the experts take on, is, this isn't for you anymore.
Well, this was my thought, is like, I mean, I would love that too. I don't have that answer. I'm asking that question, but I intend to be that voice. It's like one of the things that is an advantage to being an ECE is I'm not on their payroll. I don't get paid by them.
Yeah.
I have a newsletter where I can talk freely about the pros and the cons. And one of the hot topics that I discuss in the newsletter and inside my community is, who's this for, and should you stay? And if you shouldn't, what should you do? Right? Like, and if you are going to stay, how can you make the most of it? Like, I view my role as helping paying Evernote users make the most of their subscription. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do, right?
Yep.
And so it's like if you want to change, if you want to go all in and maximize your subscription, I'm going to help you get there in the quickest way possible, right? And that's who I think Evernote's for. Like it may be, it's unfortunately there's a lot of fixed income, uh, older customers of Evernote that are going to feel the pinch as a result of this transition. And that
Yep.
makes me very sad. It really makes me sad. And I hear it. I understand it. I know that that is a reality. But I don't
They're a
have the
bit
solution.
they're a business. Like, I mean, it sucks. I mean, so as you're mentioning like what you're gonna do, I'm like sitting here thinking with Sarah, of course, in the back channel. Sarah's the operations and an online business manager for us. I'm like, should we bring back Escape Evernote again? Like, should we bring that product back out of retirement? I mean, just because there are going to be some people that are looking for alternatives, and it seems to me, and this is again not being contentious, but like anytime this happens, I'm like, well, maybe it's like the Disney vault. Time to bring this out of the vault. Remember the old days where Disney had like the VHS tapes that they would put in the vault sometimes? Again, not to but this is I think part of what Bending Spoons wants. It doesn't want people fortunately or unfortunately, for depending on what perspective, it wants people to use the product at its utmost. And if that's what the pricing is based on. That's what so initially if pricing didn't scare away people, which I mean it can, limits might. Like the limits might, they might say, and I'm imagining, and we talked about this before. The limits are they going to be? And I think you alluded to this already, but let's just reaffirm it. So if someone they're over their limit, they just won't be able to add new notes like what they did before. You can't add new notes. You're going to have to do some pruning, right? It's not like, oh my God, these 5,000 notes of the 6,000 are going to
Right.
go away, right? It's that's their version of grandfathering in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll still have access to your data. Let's just say you have 100 notebooks and you downgrade to starter. Like the very first thing it's going to say is they're going to encourage you to download, to consolidate that and get around that, or they're going to let you do it. And anytime you try to do something in the interface, you're going to get this little message that says it's upgrade in order to do that, or we notice you're at this amount and we need you to be at this amount. So it's just going to be, like I said, I think a speed bump to interact with your data.
Well, and this is where you come in, right? Like you said, this is where you can come in and go, hey, if you want to get the most out of this, then here's how. And like you pointed out, if not, then here, you'll want to look elsewhere for alternatives, or here's how you can prune it down to make it work for you with the pricing. Because that's another strategy that you could take too is, hey, I'm not going to pay this much, but I want to get it to starter. How do I get it to starter, Stacey? Well, here's what I would look at. And this is why you spend time in that ecosystem. And to your credit, and I forget, I was talking to Brooks Duncan. And you know Brooks, right? So
Yeah.
Brooks was over here this past weekend. Brooks used to run Document Snap, and he got out of the game. And he, we're still buddies. We've known each other. I've known him longer than I've known you. And he was like, the first thing he said was, I got to give Stacey props. She's been with Evernote. Like David said, ride or die. Stacey's been ride or die with it. So you're immersed in it, like to the point where, you're looking into what Bending Spoons is doing. Like there's a care factor there that I think is exemplary. And so that's an area where if someone's like, hey, I can't afford to make this change, but I have a ton of notes. How do I re-navigate this without leaving? Because it's also learning a whole new system too. It's not just moving. It's how
Right.
does Notion work? How does Obsidian work? Right?
Well, these are the costs people don't think about. Like I had a whole, like in thinking about what we're going to talk about today, I really wanted to make that point. There are all these soft costs that people don't consider.
Mm-hmm.
Switching costs are huge. The learning curve for other tools, especially because if you look at the landscape of PKM tools or knowledge management tools, which I define as a step above a note-taking tool.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is above,
and it's evolved into that, and I think that's an important distinction too.
yeah. Obviously Evernote can be a note-taking tool still, but it's just one thing that it does for me and for real fluent, deep users. But like the cost to learn is a lot, and in terms of time and effort and energy, which is one of the reasons I have a business, because I simplify that for people, right?
Mhm.
But if you look at those knowledge management systems, Evernote's arguably the most approachable of any of them. So anybody who's upset with Evernote's only going to be going to something more complex. So you talked about the tinkering. It's either a tinkering with Obsidian or a database solution with all kinds of blocks at Notion, right?
Yeah. Well, and the privacy thing I think is important too, because that's the one thing you mentioned off the top is that, so if you want to go to like the only company I see that could do PKM, and again, it depends on your trust level, in a way that Evernote does is Apple. In fact, I think somebody mentioned that Tim Cook, who was it that brought up? Yeah, here we go. Tim Cook swung by the Bending Spoon's office in Italy a while ago, right? So
Yeah.
Apple is the only one. I mean, people are like, yeah, but what about Google Keep? Privacy? You're making trade-offs there because it's being, you're paying for, if you're using a free Gmail account and you're using Google Keep there, guess what? And so with Apple, and again, it depends on how much you trust that. So it's trust. And Evernote has the one thing there's many things I could say about Evernote. Evernote is a strong, strong tool. But the one thing that you could say about them when it comes to privacy and encryption and stuff, it's even hard to get your stuff out of there in a manner of speaking to a degree. It's not as hard as it used to be, but they had the proprietary stuff and so on and so forth. Again, it's been a while. You can definitely.
Well, can I just address that really quick?
Yeah, please.
I mean, one of their 3 laws of data protection is that your data is portable.
Right.
Okay. They do cap you at, officially they say, like 100 note export at a time, where in legacy, not even version 10, which we're in, but legacy, which doesn't exist anymore, we could do a 1 file export of all our notes. Okay. So long-time users remember that, want that, etc. Those days are gone. I don't love it either, but I have 43,000 notes in my account. If I was to leave Evernote, to think I'd have to do that 100 notes at a time, I don't like the sound of that. Yeah. Just to let you all know, there's a loophole. You can export on a notebook by notebook basis. Okay. That gets you around the cap. So there's your export tip loophole. However, it is also, you can export it as a .enex file, which is their database, but you can export it in a web-friendly HTML file, a PDF. They offer channels and formats that allow you to have portability to your data. It's a key reason I ever chose Evernote in the first place. So to say that you're locked into a proprietary format, I don't think is a fair statement.
That's fair. I mean, when you used to export, it was like an ENEX file, but there's ways to, but there's ways to.
But you can actually choose other file formats that are they say in their terms, web-friendly formats, right? And they're more and more supporting Markdown. Like Markdown has increased within the app, and it's coming up even more. So like, it's not. They all have their own file format, right? Don't they?
Yep.
I mean,
some use JSON, some use, like, it depends, right? Like some use Markdown, which I know got brought up a couple times, right? Like, Obsidian, I think this is one of the comments that Andrew made. Obsidian is stored in a totally open format, Markdown. So if they focused on PKM, that would be a contender. Lubomir, I know we're getting close to time. I want to be respectful of your time, Stacey, as well. But we got a lot more comments coming in. So Lubomir says, how many notes do you actually need to have in cross-platform tool, and how often do you need old notes? I think this is an important thing too, because if anything, a situation, quote, situation's a rough term, but when this happens, it can force you to actually really rethink this. So maybe the solution is to move old notes to an archive outside of Evernote. So what do you think about that?
I think this is going to be something I discuss a lot in the year ahead. I think the conversation just shifted to how much data do you need to keep? Historically, it's been there's no penalty for capturing it all and just keeping it archived in Evernote. Now that may not be true anymore. It clearly isn't true if you want to stay under the 1,000, and who knows what the plans are in the future. So I think that's a really interesting point to kind of talk about. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of archival type solutions. There's different points of view. There's people who purge annually. There's people like me who historically have just kept and hidden visually everything and relied on search to retrieve and find if I want that, or use my advanced search skills to limit where I'm searching so that I'm only looking for current stuff. This is going to have to become something that a workflow decision that people make, I think. And it is worthy of education and deciding what suits you, and the pricing plans and the caps play a part in that.
So Celtic Seer is really wanting to yell at us. How do we downgrade to starter? You're gonna probably offer some of that in your emails and stuff. You know, like here's if you want to make some changes. You probably have some content around that, so we can make sure that we put that into the description here in YouTube and stuff, where you can share it. But like, can you give me maybe a bird's eye view of where they can look?
I mean, your strategies are going to, I'll just tell you what the strategies are going to be. They're going to be to export your notes in a file format that you're satisfied with. You'll need to pick which file format you want. And then you're going to have to delete or merge them in your own account and move notes into, consolidate notes into 20 notebooks or less. And by the way, I know I focused on those as the criteria and the constraints, but there's others too. So I would look at their pricing page to check it. Like if you're a tags user, you've got to have under 100 tags. There's
that was a cheat code for a while too. You would use tags instead of notebooks, to kind of like, because notebooks had some limits. So I'll just tag everything more, and then I'll have less notebooks. And so people will find interesting workarounds, not to skirt pricing, but for me, I remember that was something, because if you're using like a GTD or kind of any kind of task management, it was a way to kind of mirror those tags with what you might have been using in a task manager, et cetera, et cetera. So and some people, I've reached my limit with folders. I'll use tags as folders and folders as contextual behavior points instead. So, but that's not necessarily a pricing issue sometimes. Sometimes it's a limits issue. Sometimes it's just a workflow issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is, you gotta know what you're doing, right? You gotta know what you're getting into. And I think it's have some thought about like what could happen and what your real use is, and understand, as the companies are now starting to understand, there's a lot, there's value in that, and they're just starting to charge for it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is we're seeing like comments, and again, we're not going to put them all on the screen here, but I've got people saying tags are evil, tags are limited. Oh no, that's not good. Like, so yeah, like dig in and figure out what works. Now, like before I let you go, Stacey, do you think so with the changes? And again, remember, Evernote version 11 is not out as we're recording this. It's been dripped out, like as you point out, there's features that are dripping out, etc. When they made the changes last time to pricing, and then they're doing another one now, they've got to pay attention to that and see what happens. Like, what do you think they're going to, because users
here's what happened. They lost a percentage of users and their profitability went up, and those that are in, and they're still sticking with it. Like,
yes. So they niched down. They niched it down, right? Which is what...
the other factor when I'm choosing a PKM system or an Evernote or an alternative is what's the am I with a company that's profitable and making money? Yeah. And Bending Spoons has indicated that that's their case, and you could feel the momentum with them, so that feels good. Now, I mean, it could all change. I don't know.
It depends. They could have tripped the wrong wire here. Maybe not. I guess they'll find out. I mean, but you said they're data driven. They're a data-driven company. So they don't, like, and you pointed this really early. This is not a thing that they just decided to do as a snap decision. They've done their research around it. They know who they're trying to serve, people who are going to be all in. And
they beta test it. Yeah. They beta test it before they launch it.
So, yeah, it is. And I mean, so it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But this has been a great conversation. Such an active comment section here on YouTube and on LinkedIn too. So
people love their tool, right? Like, I understand. So like, it's one of the things that this is the beginning of an evolving conversation, because it really is, who is the user, right? Like, I don't have the answer to that yet. I know people like me are a user, and it's a very valuable use case. It also doesn't represent like everybody that I have historically coached or that has invested in my services. So, that what is the future user? I don't know. And why would you choose Evernote over Obsidian or Notion? I think we're going to have to get a little clearer on all of that. And I love having these conversations, but it's exactly what I'm thinking about. And, the types of things that I expect to coach those that follow me on, moving forward.
So Stacey, speaking of following you, where can people keep up with what you've got going on? And if they need some insights as to how to navigate some of what's going on, not just what's new, but what's next.
Yeah, certainly. So the best way is through my free newsletter. I email weekly to kind of keep people up to date on what's happening with Evernote and how they can better use Evernote. People have been subscribed for years. It's harmonenterprises.com/newsletter. And then through my website, you can learn about my community where I teach those that are serious about maximizing their subscription, everything they need to know. And you get access to me to ask questions and interact and do those kinds of things to help you organize whatever it is you want to organize in Evernote. So best ways.
Stacey, this has been great. Thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with me and chat about Evernote. Stick around for a second after I end the live stream, and we'll just do a little bit of a little debrief if you've got a second.
Awesome. Thanks for
Sarah,
having me.
Thank you, Sarah, for monitoring the chat. Thanks to everybody who was involved in the community as well. And one final endorsement before we go. David is saying Stacey's newsletter is
Thank you,
the
David.
best. And also, Andrew says the same thing. It's really good. So he thinks it's really good, and David thinks it's the best. So there you go.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Well, I put a lot of effort into it. I mean, I try to make it valuable for people who even aren't my customers because
Yeah.
I care. I care, and I want you all to use Evernote or not use Evernote in an informed way. So that's the point of the newsletter.
Thanks to everybody for watching the live stream. If you're watching the replay, thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you later.